Have you ever wondered what would happen if Izuku Midoriya got the chance to relive his entire life with all the memories and experiences from his first journey intact? Would he be able to save the people he cares about and prevent the tragedies that nearly broke him? And most importantly, could knowing the future actually help him defeat All for One and save society without losing One for All in the process? Well, as Deku opens his eyes as a young child again, he would be completely confused at first, not understanding what happened to him. However, he would soon realize that he's seemingly back in the past with all of his future memories intact, vowing to himself to change things this time around and save everybody he possibly can. Each day that passes, Deku would start crafting his new path, preparing for the birth of a new generation of heroes that will change everything. And now, before diving into exactly how Deku would rewrite history, let's first answer the critical question that determines everything else. Would Deku try to prevent All Might's retirement, knowing his mentor was destined to face All for One in that devastating final battle? Well, while some might think Deku would rush to stop All Might from ever fighting the villain, the truth is much more complicated than that. Deku would understand that without inheriting One for All, and without All Might eventually passing the torch, none of the future could unfold properly. You have to remember that All Might's battle against All for One was what finally exposed the villain and gave society a chance to fight back. The young Midoriya would spend countless sleepless nights agonizing over this impossible decision, knowing that some events need to happen, but desperately wanting to protect his mentor. In the end, Deku would come to a conclusion. He wouldn't try to prevent the battle entirely, but he would also absolutely work to change how it unfolds, making sure he's strong enough and smart enough to ensure All Might survives in a better condition than before. As Deku finds himself back in his childhood body, he would immediately begin training in secret. Despite being quirkless again, he wouldn't despair because he knows exactly what's coming. While other kids would be playing games, Deku would be doing push-ups, running laps, and preparing his body for One for All years before he actually receives it. By the time he's in middle school, Izuku would be noticeably fitter and stronger, though he would still maintain his kind heart and nerdy enthusiasm for heroes. Now, Deku would also handle Bakugo very differently this time around. Knowing how their relationship eventually becomes a genuine rivalry built on mutual respect, Deku would be far less hurt by Kacchan's insults. In fact, when Bakugo destroys his notebook or calls him useless, Izuku would just smile and think to himself, if only Kacchan knew what we were going to accomplish together. This calm confidence would actually irritate Bakugo even more because he would be expecting the old timid Izuku. Occasionally, Deku would slip up and say something like, "You'll have to work really hard to stay ahead of me, Kacchan," which would confuse Bakugo but fuel his competitive fire intensely. When Izuku finally meets All Might at age 14, everything would unfold similarly to before, but with key differences. Deku would keep calmer when the sludge villain attacks him, fighting back just enough to survive until All Might arrives. When he asks All Might if a quirkless boy can become a hero, his maturity and conviction would be so striking that All Might takes notice immediately. After Deku saves Bakugo from the villain with clever tactics, All Might would offer him One for All just like before. But thanks to years of secret training, Izuku would complete the 10-month beach cleanup in just 5 months, absolutely astonishing All Might with his progress. And if you, fellow viewer, would like All Might to be proud of you or your father, click the like button and subscribe. Continuing entering the UA entrance exam, Deku would have a massive advantage. He would know exactly what's coming and would have practiced using small percentages of One for All beforehand. You see, instead of using full power and destroying his body like originally, he would experiment with 5 to 10% output, mimicking the full cowling technique he learned much later in his first life. When the exam starts, Deku would actually earn villain points by carefully smashing robots with controlled strikes. And yeah, when the giant 0-point robot appears and Uraka gets trapped, he would still save her heroically, this time using only 30% power in his legs and a focused finger flick. This means only one finger breaks instead of his entire arm, which Recovery Girl would find genuinely amazing. Starting at UA, Izuku would meet his classmates with the precious knowledge of who they really are beneath the surface. He would have to pretend he's meeting Lyta, Uraka, Todoroki, and everyone else for the first time, but inside he would be smiling because these are his dear friends from his previous life. During Aizawa's quirk apprehension test on the first day, Deku would perform much better thanks to his improved control, landing somewhere in the middle of the class rankings instead of dead last. Now here's where things get really interesting. When the League of Villains attacks the USJ facility, Deku would know it's coming. He would suggest to Aizawa beforehand that maybe they should have better security measures after what happened at previous incidents, and Aizawa would take this advice to Nezu. So when Kurogiri's portals opens and villains pour through, the alarm system would activate faster. Deku would shout warnings immediately, giving everyone crucial extra seconds to react. When he ends up in the shipwreck zone with Tsuyu and Manita, he would handle the aquatic villains efficiently without breaking his fingers, then rush to help Aizawa before the teacher gets critically injured by the Namu. Deku would arrive just in time to intercept the Naru's attack with a full cowling kick, redirecting the monster's attention away from Aizawa. He would stall the creature using controlled bursts of power until All Might arrives in his heroic timing. But the crucial difference here is that Aizawa doesn't get his arm pulverized or his face severely damaged, and no students end up critically hurt. All Might would defeat the Namu and Shigaraki would retreat, but the victory would be much cleaner than before. The sports festival would showcase just how much stronger Deku has become. He would win the obstacle race using the same clever debris surfing trick from before, earning the 10 million point headband for the cavalry battle. In the one-on-one tournament, Deku would face the different opponents due to bracket changes, but the most important match would still be against Todoroki. When they clash, Izuku would use controlled power at 8 to 10% to match Todoroki's ice without hurting himself. Then he would give his heartfelt speech about Todoroki's power being his own, not his father's, successfully breaking through Shoto's emotional barriers just like before. The difference is that when Todoroki finally unleashes his flames and they have their explosive collision, he would channel about 50% into both arms instead of 100% into one. This means he would win the match by knocking Todoroki out of bounds while only suffering bruising instead of completely shattered bones. Izuku would actually win the entire sports festival in this timeline, standing on the first place podium and receiving his medal from All Might with tears of disbelief and joy. The internships would follow, with Deku still choosing Gran Torino to learn advanced control techniques. When the hero killer Stain incident occurs, Izuku would be ready. He would know that Lida is hunting Stain for revenge, so he would follow his friend and arrive just in time to prevent disaster. Warning Lida about Stain's blood-based paralysis quirk, they would coordinate much better, and when Todoroki arrives to help, the two would actually capture Stain clearly without anyone suffering major injuries. This early success would actually slow the League of Villains' recruitment efforts, since Stain's dramatic arrest wouldn't inspire as many villains to join their cause. Now comes one of the most critical moments to change. The training camp attack would be where Deku makes his biggest intervention yet. Knowing the League planned to kidnap Bakugo, he would prepare extensively. He would take Bakugo aside beforehand, warning him that villains might target him because of his strength. During the actual attack, when the poison gas spreads and villains appear, Deku would be ready with a wet bandana to filter the gas, and he would have convinced the teachers to add better security measures. When Muscular appears, Deku would lure the villain away from Koda before the encounter even happens, then defeat him using controlled 30% full cowling instead of the desperate 100% smash that nearly killed him originally. Most importantly, Bakugo wouldn't get captured this time. Thanks to increased vigilance and Deku urging his classmates to stick together, Bakugo, Kirishima, and Todoroki would form a defensive trio that successfully repels the villain's kidnapping attempt. The League would retreat empty-handed, frustrated, and depleted, and probably go to Burger King or something, I don't know. But this single change would create a massive ripple effect. You see, in the original timeline, Bakugo's capture led to the Kamino incident where All Might fought All for One and completely exhausted One for All, leading to his retirement. But now, without a hostage situation, the confrontation would unfold very differently. All for One would still emerge, furious that his plans failed, and he would attack directly to draw out All Might. However, Izuku would use his future knowledge to help the heroes locate the villain's hideout first. He would pass on information about Kamino Ward under the guise of overhearing something during the camp battle. The heroes would launch a coordinated strike with All Might, Endeavor, and others working together. When All Might faces All for One, he wouldn't be coming in exhausted from a rescue operation. He would be at near full strength with backup from other top heroes. The battle would still be incredibly intense, but with Endeavor providing crucial support and Deku evacuating civilians to minimize destruction, All Might would land his decisive United States of Smash much earlier in the fight. All for One would fall defeated before All Might completely burns through his power. All Might would still reveal his true form to the world and retire from active hero work, but he would retain a small ember of One for All instead of being totally spent. Most importantly, he would survive in much better health. The next major change would come during the Shihasakai raid to save Eri from overhaul. In the original timeline, the operation cost Sir Night-Eye his life, and Mirio Togoda lost his quirk. But Deku, he remembers everything! When he interns with Night-Eye's agency and encounters Eri on the street with Overhaul, he would immediately tell the heroes everything he suspects about the quirk erasing bullets and the abuse. This would lead to a faster, better coordinated raid. When the heroes stormed the underground base, Deku would stay close to Mirio instead of getting separated. So when Overhaul tries to shoot Eri with a quirk-destroying bullet and Mirio originally took the shot, Deku would be right there. He would use Black Whip, a power he unlocked earlier through training, to snatch the gun away before it fires. Mirio never loses his quirk. With both of them fighting together using permeation and One for All, they would overwhelm Overhaul much more easily. Sir Night-Eye wouldn't get impaled by spikes because the battle would be under control better. Both Night-Eye and Mirio would survive intact, and Eri would be rescued without additional trauma. Later, under careful supervision, Eri might even use her rewind quirk to partially heal All Might's old injuries, giving him a healthier body, even though One for All stays with Deku. As the story progresses towards the Paranormal Liberation War, Deku's knowledge would prove invaluable. He would warn the heroes about Shigaraki's enhancement procedure at the hospital and emphasize how critical it is to stop him before he fully awakens. When the heroes raid Jakku Hospital, they would coordinate better, destroying Shigaraki's capsule before he reaches full power. When Shigaraki emerges at only 70% completion, Aizawa would already be positioned to erase his quirks immediately. The initial decay wave that destroyed an entire city in the original timeline would never happen because Eraserhead cancels it before it spreads. Thousands of lives saved in an instant. The battle would still be incredibly difficult because Shigaraki has monstrous strength and regeneration, but without his full destructive capability, the heroes would fight him much more effectively. Deku's danger sense, which he unlocked earlier through training, would alert him when Shigaraki tries to attack Aizawa. He would use Float and Black Whip to yank his teacher to safety, meaning Aizawa doesn't lose his leg or eyeball. Gigantomachio would be put to sleep much faster too because Deku warned everyone about the monster ahead of time, allowing Momo to deploy more sedative earlier. Midnight would also survive because the heroes maintained better group coordination. Then by the time the final confrontation against Shigaraki and All for One arrives, the situation would be dramatically different from the original timeline. So many heroes who originally died would still be alive. All Might would be healthy, Mirio would have his quirk, Night Eye would be there to coordinate strategy. The heroes would have more strength, more hope, and better intelligence about their enemies. When All for One makes his final move, possibly escaping from Tartarus through some elaborate plan, he would face a united force of heroes who were better prepared than he could imagine. The climactic battle would see Deku leading the charge using the full array of One for All's quirks that he mastered earlier than before. Black Whip, Float, Danger Sense, and even Gear Shift from the second user would all be at his disposal. When facing Shigaraki in the mental landscape, Deku would reach out to Tenko Shimura just like he tried in the original story, but this time with more support. All Might would be there too, giving encouragement despite being quirkless. The vestige of Nana Shimura would reach out to her grandson with a heartfelt apology, and because All for One's hold over Shigaraki is weaker in this timeline due to the incomplete enhancement, Deku would actually succeed in pulling Tenko's consciousness free from the darkness. Shigaraki would help defeat All for One's vestige from within his own mind, reclaiming his body and will. Outside All for One himself, he would be facing the combined might of heroes who survived the fight. Endeavor and Hawks would work together to disable his quirks. Bakugo and Todoroki would deliver devastating combination attacks. Maybe even All Might in a support suit would land one symbolic punch. But ultimately, it would be fitting for the new generation to finish things. The heroes would overwhelm All for One through teamwork and determination and friendship, capturing him. Some suggest using Eri's rewind to turn him into a helpless state, ensuring he can never threaten anyone again. But either way, All for One's reign of terror would end decisively. With both All for One defeated and Shigaraki freed from his influence, the long era of villainy would finally come to a close. And yeah, in case you're wondering, this means Deku doesn't have to give up One for All like he did in the original ending, because the battles were handled more strategically with better support. He never had to push the quirk beyond its limits. The power remains with him, ready to be used for good. As the dust settles and society begins to heal, he would see just how much better things turned out in this rewritten timeline. All Might lives on to continue teaching at UA, healthy and content, watching his successor become the greatest hero. Sir Night Eye serves as a brilliant strategist, with his pessimistic visions proven wrong by the sheer determination of these young heroes. Mirio Togata, with his permeation intact, becomes one of the top heroes alongside Class 1A. Aizawa continues teaching without the severe injuries that nearly ended his career. Midnight inspires a new generation of students. Recovery Girl treats the scrapes and bruises of heroes who actually survive their battles. All the people who sacrificed themselves originally get to live and see the world they fought to protect. Class 1A graduates into professional heroes under circumstances far better than anyone could have hoped for. Without the devastating losses that marked the original timeline, they step into their careers with confidence and optimism. Society recovers quickly because the final battle, while intense, didn't destroy entire cities or kill thousands. The public sees that heroes can win decisively when they work together. Trust in hero society is restored, stronger than ever. Then, several years after graduation, we might see pro-hero Deku standing at the top of the hero billboard charts, officially ranked as the #1 hero and the new symbol of peace. Bakugo would be number 2, scowling but secretly proud of how far they've become. Todoroki would be high in the rankings as well, having fully reconciled with his family now that Endeavor survived to properly atone, and Dabi received help instead of dying. dying. Mirio would probably be in the top 5, smiling broadly at every press conference. The ceremony would be filled with heroes who are alive and thriving because Deku changed their fates. And in the audience watching Deku's acceptance speech, we would all see All Might and Inko Midoriya with tears of joy streaming down their faces. Eri would be there too, now a teenager attending UA with a bright smile, having grown up safely under the protection of her big brothers Deku and Mirio. When Izuku delivers his speech thanking everyone who supported him and acknowledging that he couldn't have done any of this alone, the crowd would erupt in cheers. Because this time, the symbol of peace isn't just one person standing alone. It's an entire generation of heroes who survived and grew stronger together, proving that the future is brighter when people refuse to give up on each other. So this answers our original question perfectly. Yes, if Deku was reincarnated with all of his memories, he would absolutely try to change the tragedies that haunted him, and he would succeed in ways that seem almost miraculous. And folks, click on this video next where I find out what would happen if the old heroes fought the new heroes in My Hero Academia. And don't forget to like, subscribe, press all the buttons. See you there at the video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye!